What would you call an animal that carries her husbands around fused into her own skin? Not holding them, fused. Their eyes dissolved years ago, their organs are gone, and her blood is the only thing keeping them alive. She carries more than one of them at a time, and not a single one can ever leave. She's real. She's down there right now, somewhere under a mile of black water. And we'll get to her, but she's where this ends, not where it starts. To understand how anything gets built that way, you have to look at what the deep does to males in the first place. On land, dating is a fair fight. Both sides show up, both have a real shot, and the whole thing runs on rough balance. Drop into the deep ocean, and that balance falls apart. Down there, the female runs the show, and the male gets cut down to almost nothing. And the farther down you go, the worse his deal gets. There's a reason the deep does this to him. A mile down, the water is pitch black and close to freezing, and food barely exists. A single meal might drift past once in a very long while, and there's no sun to grow more. But the hardest problem down there isn't the cold, or the dark, or the hunger. It's finding another one of your own kind. The deep ocean is the biggest living space on the planet, and it's nearly empty. Two animals that need to meet can be miles apart in total blackness, with no light to see by and no easy way to call out. A male might swim his whole life and never once cross paths with a female, so evolution keeps landing on the same answer. Make the female big. Make her the one who lasts, then shrink the male down to the only thing that really matters. Everything else about him is weight the deep can't afford. The strangest one of all showed up by accident. In 2002, a robot submarine exploring the seafloor off California, nearly 2 miles down, came across a dead gray whale wrapped in a strange red fuzz. That fuzz turned out to be an animal nobody had ever laid eyes on before. Scientists later named it Osedax, the bone-eating worm, though most people just call it the zombie worm. She bores straight into the whale's skeleton with acid. Then she lives off the bone itself, feeding on the fat locked inside. And here's the part that trips people up. Every zombie worm you've ever seen a photo of is female, every last one of them. Go looking for a male and you'll have a hard time because the males never become adults. Each one stays microscopic, smaller than a grain of sand, frozen at a stage barely past larva. He has no mouth and no gut at all, so he can never eat a thing. Instead of growing up, dozens or even hundreds of them live crammed inside a jelly-like tube around a single female's body, there to father her young and nothing else. And as she grows, she just keeps collecting more. One female can end up carrying a harem of 600 of them at once. She decides when to use them. In human terms, she's a chemist who dissolves bone for a living. She owns the property, and she controls all the food. Her husbands sit in a jar on the shelf, alive and useful and going absolutely nowhere. Every one of them shares that tube with hundreds of rivals, and not one has a mouth to complain with. Some guys will tell you they relate. Evolution flipped this back exactly once. In 2015, scientists described a single kind of bone worm where the males escaped the tube and grew to full size again. Evolution hit reverse. For every other kind, he stays a speck for good. Now go a whole lot bigger. If you've seen a pill bug curl up in your yard, you know the shape of a giant isopod. Then scale it up until it's the size of a football, armor-plated, with pale compound eyes built for the dark. The biggest one ever recorded came in around 30 inches long. In most deep-sea isopod species, the females are the larger ones. Their cousins, the supergiant amphipods, live past 19,000 feet down. And there too, the record holders are female. Scientists have a name for what's happening here, and it's deep-sea gigantism. Cold water and scarce food push these animals far past the size of their shallow relatives. It hits the females hardest. The female isopod carries her eggs in a pouch on her underside. And while she's carrying them, she stops eating. Not just for a week. For months, sometimes past a year, she goes without a meal while her young develop inside that pouch. Then she releases them fully formed, skipping the larval stage entirely. The male's role ended long before any of that started. A human mother would have to go a full year without a single meal, in the cold and the dark, with nobody helping, just to keep her kids breathing. For her, that is simply a normal season. I do have to correct something you'll see repeated online. There's a famous giant isopod at the Toba Aquarium in Japan that refused all food for over 5 years before it died in February 2014. People love folding that into the tough mother story. That isopod was a male. He wasn't brooding anything, he just quit eating and nobody ever worked out why. The females don't need his record. Theirs is real. The next one walks. Sea spiders are thin, long-legged animals that stalk across the sea floor. In the deep, the biggest ones stretch past 2 feet. They have almost no body to speak of. Their trunk is so narrow that their organs run out into their legs, including the gut and the parts that make eggs. She hunts with a proboscis, a long needle of a mouth she punches into soft-bodied prey to drink them dry. Females are generally the bigger and heavier ones. And then they do something that flips the whole script. She makes the eggs, which is the expensive part, and hands them straight to the male. Then she walks away and leaves him to it. He glues them onto a special pair of legs built for the job and carries them until they hatch. One male can be hauling a dozen clumps of eggs at the same time, waving them through the water to keep them clean and breathing. He can be stuck with that load for weeks. In 2023, on an expedition near the North Pole, scientists pulled a deep-sea sea spider up from nearly 14,000 feet. It was a male, still carrying his young. She lays them, passes them over, and says, "Your problem now." And honestly, she has a point, because she already did the hardest part of the job. The deep sea sorted out parental leave a few million years before we started arguing about it. Now the one that will stay with you. Off the coast of California, more than half a mile down, lives a deep-sea octopus called Granelodon boreopacifica. The male's whole role in the next generation is over in minutes. He passes on his half, and often dies soon after. In plenty of octopus species, he doesn't even get that much. The female just eats him. In 2008, researchers in Palau watched a female day octopus clamp a smaller male's gills shut, haul him into her den, and spend 2 days eating him. Nobody has ever filmed that in Granelodon, and almost nobody has seen 2 of them together at all. But she dwarfs him, and she's about to stop eating for years. She stores what he gave her, and uses it when she decides. Everything that follows is hers alone. In 2007, researchers from the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute found a female clinging to a rocky ledge at about 4,600 feet, guarding a clutch of eggs. Then they kept coming back, returning to that same spot 18 times over the next 4.5 years. Every single time she was still there. Same rock, same arms curled over the same eggs, fanning them with fresh water, chasing off anything that came close. Each visit she looked worse than the last. Her skin turned pale and loose and her body shrank in on itself, but she never left. As far as anyone could tell, she never ate again. For 53 months straight, she starved on that ledge in total darkness. No animal on Earth has ever been recorded brooding longer. In 2011, the eggs finally hatched, and she was gone. Her sacrifice bought something real, though. Her young hatched as the largest, most developed baby octopuses ever found, ready to hunt from their first minute in the dark. She burned her entire body down to give them that head start. He gave about 45 seconds of his life. She gave 4.5 years, and then all the rest of it. If you want the human version, it's a mother going without food from 2019 to 2024, in the dark, alone, never once stepping away. Then there's the one that just refuses to die. Up in the Arctic, the Greenland shark grows barely a centimeter a year and never really stops. Females can pass 20 feet long and weigh over 1,000 pounds, and they tower over the males. Nearly all of them are close to blind, thanks to a parasite that anchors into the eye. So she hunts by smell and by sensing the faint electricity of living bodies. She has been found with seals in her stomach, and on occasion with animals that had no business being in the ocean at all. In 2016, a team led by Danish biologist Julius Nielsen Carbon dated the eye lenses of 28 of these sharks and got a number that rewrote the record books. The oldest came back at roughly 392 years, with a range running as high as 512. That makes the Greenland shark the longest living animal with a backbone we have ever found. A shark like that was born somewhere between 1505 and 1627. She was already alive under the ice while Shakespeare was writing, and while the first American colonies were being nailed together. The Titanic was built, sank, and rusted apart on the seafloor. She kept going. She may still be out there right now, somewhere under the ice, still growing. All that slowness does something harsh to the male. A female doesn't become an adult until she's around 150 years old, so he has to wait more than a century for one chance. She isn't a late bloomer. She's someone who spent a century and a half getting her life fully in order before she'd even consider children. If a human aged on her schedule, the oldest person who ever lived would still be a baby to her. Which brings us back to the fish from the beginning. You've almost certainly seen a deep-sea anglerfish, even if you couldn't name it. Glowing lure hanging over a mouthful of long, crooked teeth, the face the ocean seems to have built for a nightmare. That famous monster is always a female, every single one of them. Her lure runs on live bacteria she carries inside it. Her jaws can take prey twice her size because down there, you eat whatever shows up. There's no telling when the next thing comes. The male is a completely different animal. He's tiny, sometimes an inch long against her 7. In the most extreme species, she outweighs him 60 times over. He has no lure, almost no body, just big eyes and a strong sense of smell. His entire existence comes down to one task. Find her in an ocean the size of a continent, in total darkness before his energy runs out. Most males never manage it, and they drift through the black and die alone. And if he does find her, he bites onto her side and holds on. In many of these species, he never lets go again, and his mouth fuses right into her skin. Their blood vessels grow together into one shared system, and his body begins to dissolve. The eyes go first, then the fins, then most of his organs one by one. What's left is a lump of tissue whose only job is to fertilize her eggs, kept alive entirely by her blood. She controls his bloodstream, and she feeds him. A single female can carry up to 8 of these fused former males at once. He doesn't just lose the relationship, he loses himself entirely and becomes a body part on someone else. If you've ever complained that your partner doesn't pull his weight around the house, at least he still has his own face. By every rule of biology, that should be impossible. Join 2 animals and merge their blood, and the body attacks the intruder. It's the same reaction that makes organ transplants so hard on people. The reason a patient rejects a new kidney or a new heart, it should kill them both. And yet it doesn't. Deep-sea anglerfish evolved to shut down the parts of their immune system that would normally reject a fused stranger. No other animal with a backbone is known to pull that off. That's exactly why scientists won't leave them alone. The same trick that lets him dissolve into her could one day teach us how to keep a donated organ alive. For all of that, we almost never see one alive. Nearly everything we know came from dead ones dragged up in nets. That changed on January 26, 2025, off Tenerife. A team from the group Chondric Tenerife, out studying sharks, spotted something small and black near the surface in broad daylight. A place a deep-sea anglerfish should never be. It was a female black sea devil, glowing lure and all, the first living adult ever filmed up there. One of the photographers said it was like a dream come true. They stayed with her for about an hour in the one place she was never built to be, and then she died. Line all of these animals up, and the pattern is hard to miss. When partners are this rare and this hard to reach, the winning move is to make every lucky meeting count for as much as possible. So the deep keeps voting for the female, making her bigger, older, tougher, and more in charge. And it trims the male down to whatever scrap still gets the job done, whether that's a speck with no mouth or a lump with no eyes. None of this runs on romance. It runs on the plain math of staying alive. So that's dating in the deep. The farther down you go, the less the male gets to be, until he's barely there at all. She only grows into more of the story. Somewhere out there right now, a zombie worm is dissolving a whale skeleton with a tube full of husbands wrapped around her. She has no idea she got off easy. Want to see how that anglerfish actually hunts in the pitch black? Her lure makes her one of the deadliest ambush predators down there. Go watch our video, Why This Deep Sea Predator Doesn't Move, and why that makes it terrifying. Then drop a like, subscribe, and tell me one thing. Which of these females would you least want to meet in the dark?